Welcome back to a new deep dive, and on this occasion is the NOVATION LAUNCHKEY MK4. This controller, it's small, but it's just fully featured. You have a lot of things, a lot of tools that you can use. And in this video, I'm going to try to cover everything one by one. On the description or the timeline, you have all the different chapters. So maybe you can watch something today and maybe skip a section if you already know it, and then just, come back and watch it a different day. If you like what I do, please like the video, and this channel is supported by viewers only. If you want to buy me a coffee to say thanks and help the channel keep going on, you can. You have links in the description for PayPal, YouTube Thanks, and Patreon. Okay, so let's just get the simple parts out of the way first. The keys, they just play super nice. As you could guess, this is my favorite action. Maybe I like the Arturia a little bit better, but everything else is just, better than the Arturia. And that's just my opinion. Sometimes setting the velocity of the keys is a problem. Well, right here, it's not. If you go to settings, you have a lot of different options that you can just configure. For example, the channel, but you can also select the velocity curve of the keys and the pads, and it's just, very simple to do. You will be getting different profiles or options, and you just select the one that you like the most. Then at the bottom, you have the octave controls. And of course, if you go up, it will go one octave up. And you can keep going and going and going. Notice that as you go up, the button, it's going to get brighter. And if you go down, of course, it's going to get brighter for the other one, right? So let me just go to the other one. If you want to go back to the center, just press both at the same time, and it will just take you back to the center. Another cool thing that you can do is that if you hold Shift and you tap the octave, you can transpose by semitones. And, just one semitone. And just like before, if you hold Shift and tap both at the same time, you can go back to the center. Just like you can do on any DAW, if you press play, it will start the playback of whatever is that you're trying to do. On this one, especially on Ableton, if you press play again, it will stop the playback. But if you press it again, it will just go back to the beginning. So it will restart the playback from the beginning. But if you do Shift and you do play, it will pause the playback. And if you do Shift and play again, it will resume from where you paused the playback. Another thing that you can do, and this is something you can do on some DAWs, you cannot do it on every single DAW that you get. If you play something and you want to get that retrospective recording back, you could do Shift and then press Rec, and you will get back the retrospective recording. As you can see, the Shift, it's very important on this device. For example, if you want to maybe select a different track, you can hold the Shift, just hold it, and then go up or go down, and you can select, one of the tracks that you have on your session. Also, sometimes maybe just holding the Shift to do whatever it is that you want to do, it's not so fun. So you can just double tap the Shift, and you can latch it, and then you can freely use both hands. And of course, to unlatch, you can just press it again. So when the Shift is on, and I'm going to latch it right now, I'm going to just double tap. When you're just holding or latching the Shift, you have a lot of functions. And all the functions are going to be pretty much right there on the top of each pad, and then at the bottom. So the row that you have at the top are going to be the encoder modes, and you have 8 encoder modes that you can select: the plugin, mixer, and sense, and everything else. Of course, I'm going to deep dive on each of the functions. But this is what you can do with the encoders at the top. Then at the bottom, you have the pad modes. These ones are the blue ones. And this, again, are the pad modes. For example, if I select DAW, or maybe drum, or maybe chords, for example, if I go to the chord map, and I just get out of the Shift, now I can just use chords right here. So this is the chord mode, what you can do with the pads. If I go to maybe Shift and hold it, and I go to the drum and select the drum, now this is just, the pads are ready to play with the drum rack. And if I go to maybe the DAW mode, on this one, you can use a sequencer, or you can, launch clips, and, a lot of the things that you can do on a DAW. especially if you have a session or you have, you can launch clips. Again, we will deep dive on each function. This is just a tiny introduction. I guess first I'm going to start with the encoder modes, everything that you can do right here at the top. Right, so let's talk about the encoder modes. First, to use them, you need to select one of the modes that you get right here. Is the row at the top. So first you do Shift and then you select one of the encoder modes. Now, when you select a mode, notice that it's just a little bit, it's just a little bit brighter. And right now it's just very dim because of the camera. But you can adjust this. If you go to settings, you can see that you have the brightness of the LED and you have the brightness of the screen. So yeah, you can adjust this. I'm going to keep it like this because if not, it's just going to burn the film, the camera. So first you have the plug-in mode. To select it, go to Shift and then again, maybe select the plugin mode. In plugin mode, when you have a track selected, the encoders, the 8 encoders, will do something or move a param of the plugin. In this case, I have a drift loaded on this track. If I move right there on the screen, it will tell you what it will move. And if I go to the next one, this one's the shape, and then you have the octave. Yeah, everything is, if you're using a native instrument of Ableton, is just mapped to something. If not, of course, you can map it yourself. But by default, you are going to get it. Now, usually you get 2 rows of 8. Notice that this one, it's on. So if you go to the next one and you have more mappings, you can, just move and just adjust whatever is that this is mapped to. One thing that it's annoying sometimes is that you need to move the encoder to know what this controls, or maybe just to see the value. And sometimes when you move it, you're just changing the value and you don't want that. So let's say this one, it's on 6. If I want to know which is the default value for this one, I just need to hold the Shift and move it. And notice that I'm just moving it, I'm just rotating this, and the value is not changing. So this is the way we get to know the value without changing the value. Now I am on a track where I have just a lonely instrument. What happens if we have more? I'm going to do Shift and we can move to the next track. On the next track, I have a lot of things. I have an instrument rack with, drift, and maybe I can see a chorus, and, and of course we get the macro. So we have a lot of things. So what's going to happen when we have, a track that has a lot of things? Well, it's just the same thing. If the rack is selected, this ones will control the macros. If I move it, notice that it's just moving the macros by default. All right. And again, if you have more macros, by pressing this, you can go to the next page and just, move the next macros. In this case, we have none. I just have 8. Still, on this track, I have a lot of things going on. The instrument, the chorus, then I have a reverb. How can I select different parts of my track? You can go to the Shift, just hold it, and then you need to use the encoder bank to let you select an instrument of plugging. This is the encoder bank. So if I just select it, notice that it's letting me move through the different instruments. So when you do so and you select an instrument, all the different encoders will work for that specific instrument that you have selected. So now notice that if I move this, it will not move the macros. It's doing something on the actual drift on the synthesizer. If I do the same thing, I can go wherever I want, and the screen will let you know what you're, selecting. If I wanted to go to the reverb, I have it right there, and now the macros or the controls will control whatever it was mapped to the reverb. Cool, right? So it's just, again, very easy to use once you learn the controls. Always, when you have a rack, if you go to select the whole rack, you can go back and select or just control the macros. Okay, so this is the plugin mode. You just control the plugin or the instrument that you have on the track. The next mode is going to be the mixer. And when it's mixer, it's about, level and panning. And to select that one, you just need to hold the Shift and then select the mixer mode. On the mixer mode, you can control 2 different things. You can control the level and you can control the panning. And right now, when you select it, it will let you know where you are. And you need to use the encoder banks. you can press it, and now you can control the panning, or you can control the level. And just like before, each of the encoders will be a track. Since you have 8 encoders, you can control up to 8 different tracks. If I go here and I am on level, I guess I can control the volume of the instrument. If I go to the next one, it's just the next track, and so on and on and on. If I go to the next option, it's going to be the panning. So I just can pan this to the left, or I can pan it to the right. Let me just go back to the center. The screen is super helpful. It's a little bit small, but it tells you whatever it is that you're doing if you're just far from the computer like I am right now. Like I said, when you work with the encoders, you can control up to 8 different tracks. What if you want to control the rest of the tracks? We did it earlier. You can hold the shift and then you just move the track. And as soon as you select a different track, notice that the yellow zone will just select the portion that you can, control. So now you can control the first one. And this one is going to be this audio track, right? It's going to be the track number 5, or, so on and on and on. So just by selecting the track, you move the zone that you can control with the 8 different encoders. The next encoder mode is going to be the send. So I'm going to shift and then select the sends. And this is very simple. If you are on the track number 1, let's say this is the one, I'm just going to be sending to the send A, which is a reverb send, and how much you want to send. Simple as that. Now, by default, when you create a session on Ableton, you get 2 sends. How can I select the second send? Well, you need to use the encoder bank, and now I'm going to be sending to the delay. Whenever you add more sends, it will show up right here. And I'm going to do it right now with my mouse. I'm going to go here to Ableton, and I'm going to create a return track. I'm going to add it right there. So now we have 3. And again, notice that if I go here, we can select the A, the B, or the C. So whenever you add a return track, it's going to show up right here on this mode. Then you have the transport mode. I'm going to hold the shift and then select the transport. And all the different encoders will do something very specific. On some modes, the screen will let you know what each of the encoder can do. For example, it says SCRB. Well, that's scrub. It means that you can go to the first encoder and you just can move and scrub, and select the transport location. I'm going to go maybe right here to the beginning. Now, the number 2, it's going to be this zoom in and zoom out. So if I'm standing right here, I can zoom in or I can zoom out. The other one is going to be the vertical zoom. I can just, expand on the track that I have selected, or just can, make it a little bit smaller. Let me just adjust all of this just a tiny little bit. The next ones are going to be the loop start and loop end. With this one, you select the start of the loop, whatever it is that you want to loop, and then you just select the end of the loop. The number 6, this one is the mark. So you can move between markers and locators. I have none right now. Notice that if I move it, it says no markers. So that's actually fine. I'm going to show you a nice little trick in a second. And then you have this one, which just does nothing. And the last one, it's going to be the tempo. Right here, you can just change the tempo. Now, when you scrub, tiny little trick with the bank up and down, let me just put it right there, for example. With this one, if you press up, the button up, you can add a locator. And again, if I go here and I add a couple more locators, I'm going to press up, I'm going to add it, and then I'm going to go there and just add it. Now I have 3. So if we go back to this one, we can again navigate between the different locators. And to remove them when we are on a locator, I just go there and just press the up again, and it will just remove it. I'm going to go there, just remove, and then go there and kaboom. When you are in session view, sometimes you cannot see what the encoders do. But still, if you go to session view and you stay on the transport, for example, this and this one, the tool will kind of scroll or select a different track, and this one will go down and up on your different clips. So, but this was meant to be used with the transport, if you ask me. So if you do shift and you move on to the next one, the other ones are just custom modes. And what they will do, you have 2 pages, 1 to 8 and then 9 to 16, and you just send CC data to whatever channel. Like I said before, you have the components, which is an application where you can configure and customize different modes, especially, the custom modes. But we will talk about that later. So look at everything that we just did, and we only covered the encoders and a couple functions. We have the scales, the ARP, the sequencer, the clip launching. So yeah, we can still do a lot of things. So let's talk about the scale mode. Right, so you have a scale mode, just to make everything easy. To enable the scale, you just need to press the button. So when you are in the scale mode, the screen will let you know the root and the scale. And the encoder 1 will change the root and notice this is an infinite type of a scroller. So yeah, you can keep scrolling. I'm going to go to C, and the encoder number 2 will be the scale. So yeah, you have a lot of different scales that you can use. I'm going to go, for now, I'm going to go to the major one. Now, how this will affect the keyboard, it depends on the encoder number 3. First, I'm going to show you this. If you go all the way down, the first mode is snap to scale. The other one is filter out of scale, and the other one is easy scale. First, I'm going to go to the snap to scale. The snap to scale, it will move the keys to fit the scale, right? It makes sense. So if right now the C major, it means all the white keys. I'm going to press this one. I'm going to press this one is the black key, and notice that they sound the same. So it doesn't matter if you play the wrong key, it will always play a key that belongs to the scale. So that's the snap to scale. The other one, the other mode, the filter out of scale, will remove the keys that don't belong. So if I play this, that one belongs, and all the black ones are just out of the scale. And this applies, of course, to all the different scales that you use right here. It will just, remove the keys that you cannot play. And the other one, the EC scale, is gonna map all the different notes to the white keys. So in this case, we are using a C major. It's all the white keys, but if you select something a little bit more complicated, notice that the dots are not changing right there. It's because whatever it is that you select, well, it's gonna be all the different keys, all the white keys that you get. Cannot get, easier than that. Now, still, if you don't want to use this because, maybe you just don't want, I like to use this snap to scale. And on the other modes, I like the visual reference of whatever, is going on in terms of scale. So you can use this as a learning reference. Now that you have the scale right there, you know what to play and you can practice your scales. And I think, again, this is just a very useful thing, especially if you're learning. I'm gonna put it on C major because the scale, the scale feature for this device is super important. The ARP and all the different modes will be based on whatever scale that you select right here. It doesn't matter if the scale is on or off. Whenever you configure or you set a root or a different scale, all the different functions will react to the selected scale. The path number 1, the one that says DAW, is very specific to Ableton, and it might or might not work, depending again on the DAW that you're using. If I go to Shift and just hold it and select the DAW mode, notice that it says sequencer or it says clips. So this is a super powerful mode just to work with sequences and to work with clips. But I'm going to come back to this later. I'm going to show you what we can do much later because it's super powerful. I just want to, take my time with this. First, I'm going to show you the drum mode, the second one. I'm going to do Shift and then go to drum mode. Also, if you're using a drum mode, you might want to use a track where you have a drum. For now, I'm going to get out of the scale mode. And again, Once you go to drum mode, this will, of course, detect that you have a drum rack, and it will just play all the different parts. Again, you go up to the lowest one right here, and this one you have two sections. It's kind of split it by two sections on two different columns. If you finish on this one, well, this one is not next. It's going to be this one, right? And then once you finish here, you go then to the next row. Now, what happens if you have sounds on different parts, on different notes? Well, the up and the down will change the notes that you can trigger. Notice that I have no sounds on those, on those notes. You can easily just, navigate the different places on your drum rack. And that's it. That's the drum mode. Now, one thing that you need to know about this device, if maybe you're just watching this video just to buy it, or maybe know what you can do, the pads are just great, and they are just velocity sensitive. They are super sensitive, and you can again configure this by going to settings. If you don't remember, you can go to settings. I'm going to go all the way up. Right here, you can change the settings. You can go to the keys channel. By default, it's 1. And when it says keys channel, it's talking about this keys, the keyboard. But then you have the chords. If you're using chords, you can use a different channel. But then the drums channel, it's always, usually on a controller, is on the channel 10. But you can, change the channel where you want to send the drums. Again, by default, it's 10. If you keep going down, you have the velocity of the keys, but also you have the velocity of the pads. And if you go to the last option, you can just turn it off. And also, if you turn it off and you want to use a fixed velocity, you can set the fixed velocity on the next option. Then, of course, you have more options, especially if you want to use the aftertouch capabilities of the pads. So you do get polyphonic aftertouch, which is something super great that you get with the pads. You don't get aftertouch with the keys, and you can do channel aftertouch or maybe just turn it off. For now, I'm just going to keep it on. You have a couple more modes for chords. You have the user chord, and then you have the chord map. First, I'm going to show you the chord map, and this function is just a fantastic function. I'm going to select something where we can, play something. I'm going to do shift and go to chord and then map. Now, maybe the camera again is not so generous. Right here, you have a kind of a breakpoint, and you have all the different blue pads, and then you have different modes. So the blue ones are the chords that you can play. Notice that if I play it back, you are going to be getting different chords. And right here, it's going to let you know the name of the chord and which keys you are playing. By default, you get 8 different chords, and that's fine. But you can change how the chords behave with the different encoders that you have right here. First, I'm going to show you the encoder 3 and the number 4. The first one, it's going to be the spread. Right here, it says spread. So you can use normal spread. It's going to be something like that. Maybe I'm going to go to this one. But if you go to wide, it's going to be super wide. It's like spreading the keys on whatever chord is that you're using. So again, you have different profiles. You have normal, you have wide, and then you have the widest. I'm going to go back to normal, and the next option is going to be the roll. If you go to 0 milliseconds, if you're going to get, a chord, but if you go all the way up, you can go up to 100 milliseconds, and it will do a roll. Fantastic, right? Now, the fun begins right here when you use the encoder number 1 and the number 2. The encoder number 1 calls adventure, yeah, and the encoder number 2 calls explore. I'm going to go to 1 on both encoders. Usually when you go to 1, you get the most, basic chords, which is fine. Now, the adventure, this one, it's going to be 5 different banks, which is different chords. If I go to, the number 3, notice that we get different chords. And of course, all of this depends on the scale that you have selected. I'm going to go maybe to the 1. If I play it, You get a C major, but if I go here and change the scale and change the root, now this one is going to be just, a different chord. It all depends on the scale that you select. And the scale can be off if you wanted to. Still going to go to C major. I'm going to turn off the scale. I'm going to make sure that we are on the chord map. And as you go up on the different banks inside Adventure, the chords are going to get a little bit more complex, which is fine, right? Now the other one, and I'm going to go back to one on Adventure, the other one is going to be the Explore. And this one is the same idea than this one. You get variations, and these are inversions of the same chords. So if I go to the max one, which is going to be the number 8, and I move to 7, notice that you get different variations. And this is again fantastic. And I think all the different controllers should have something like this, because you're not locked to the same good old chords. You just can do a little bit of experimentation, if you can call it that way. Right. This is what you can do with the chords and the options, the common options that you have at the top. At the right side, and I'm going to make sure that I go to one on Adventure and one on Explore. At the right side, these ones are the performance modifiers. Each modifier can do something very specific, and what you need to do is to hold and then tap the chord. You need to use both hands. I'm going to show you a different way in a minute, but this one, if I go here, it says Arp Up. I'm going to hold this one, and if I tap this chord, notice that I get one single note, but if I tap it again, I get the second note and the third. And if I keep tapping, this is what you get. So this is an ARP. This is why this modifier is called ARP Up. Right? Fantastic. I'm gonna go down on the roll. Even though it sounds fine, I'm gonna just go down. So on the ARP Up, this is what you can do. And right there at the bottom, you have the same, but it's gonna be the ARP Down. If you go to this one is going to be the inversion up, and this one the inversion down. And this what it does, it will let you play the original chord and then the first inversion and second inversion and an octave higher. So you get different versions of the same chord. I'm going to hold this one. This one is the inversion up. Notice that I get something different. Up and then back. I'm going to try maybe with this one. So yeah, this is what you get. And on the other one, it's just the same, but it's going to be down. Now the next ones are going to be are just a little bit different. This one is the bass and chord. So you get the bass note and then the chord. So you essentially need to tap twice. The other one is going to be the chord split, and this depends on the chord that you're using. If you have maybe just 3 notes, it's just not that useful, but if you hold it and you play it, it's going to play the left side of the chord and then the right side of the chord. It's like, using both hands. Now, if you don't want to hold it right here, you just can press this one. Notice that it's on, and you're just maybe latching this mode. So now you just don't need to hold it. You just can do it with one hand. So if you don't like the chord map, you can do Shift and you can create your own chords, and you have 16 different slots where you can host your own chords. Now this is the scene launch button. If you just play a chord on this mode, notice that the screen will let you know what you're doing, what you're playing. If you want to turn that off, you just can press that one and you can again turn it off. In this case, I'm gonna keep it on. So right here, what you can do, you can press a pad, play something, and it will remember the chord. I'm gonna just press it, I'm gonna hold it, and now I'm gonna just play a chord, and that's it. Once I do so, this one is gonna be blue, and now we can just tap and play the chord. Another way to do so, you can just press it and hold it, and you can enter the different notes separately, and then release, and we have the chord. If you want to delete the chord, go to Function, press and hold. Notice it says delete chord and they go red. And you just tap it, and they're gone. I'm gonna just hold it and enter a chord, and I'm just gonna do something else. So what you can do is you can transpose the chords by semitones, or you can transpose them by octaves. You need to use the up and the down. If I go here and keep playing, I transpose by 1, by 2, and notice that the root changes. And to go back, of course, you can go back or go lower if you wanted to. By pressing both at the same time, you go back to 0. And if you want to transpose by octaves, shift and then up, and you transpose by octaves. Now, just like any other MIDI controller, you can store a chord in memory and have the keys play that chord. I'm gonna get out of the chord mode so we don't get confused. I'm gonna go, to the DAW mode. Now, if you hold the shift and then go to scale, notice that it says fixed chord and then play chord. Now, if I release it, I cannot add the chord. So you need to do shift, or you can just double tap it to latch the shift and then press it and it says play chord. Once you play the chord, you release and it's gonna remember. I'm gonna get out of the shift, and now if I play one single key, it's just gonna play that chord. Now, how do you know that this function is on? Because right now on the screen and the buttons, we don't know if it's on and off. So when you do shift, if this scale lights up, it means that it's on. And to remove it, well, it's the same trick. You just hold the shift, go and hold the scale. Let me do it again. Hold both, and you just press one single key, and this will just, dispose the chord. And you're back to single keys. What if you want to keep the chord and maybe turn it off and on? Well, it's the same idea. I'm gonna go to shift and then go to scale, hold it. I'm gonna play the chord. And I know that now I have a chord. Now, what you can do shift, hold it, and just tap the scale. And on this one, you're just turning that function off. But if you want to turn it on, you just tap it again, and you're back to that function. Now, one thing that you need to bear in mind is that if you, of course, record something to the memory and you turn the device off, it's just gonna forget that chord. But the other one, the user chord, it's something that the device will remember. And I'm gonna prove this to you. I'm gonna go right here, just unplug this, and I'm gonna plug it back in. Okay, so back on, I go to shift and I go to scale. Notice that I have nothing. So it's not there. I'm gonna need to record it again. But if I go to shift and I go to user chord, the chords are there. I'm gonna make sure that I am on the DAW mode. It doesn't matter. If I turn the ARP on, it's on, and whatever it is that you do right here, it's just gonna ARP it. Cool. It's a very simple arpeggiator, but you have a couple of functions that make it really, really cool. Notice that when you are on the ARP mode, the button is gonna be on, but then the screen will let you know what you can do, all the different options that you get for the ARP. So all of this are the encoders, right? All the encoders will do something. So if I play an ARP, of course we get an ARP, but then the encoders will do something, and I'm gonna just maybe do a chord. This one is gonna be the tempo. If I want to go slower, we can go slower, we can hold just faster. And maybe I'm gonna just transpose, and there we go. Because I'm just, the camera's right here, so I'm in a funny position. The next option, it's gonna be the swing. So we can do swing if we wanted to. Cool. If we go down, we can go into negatives. Right, so what else can we do? We can change the tempo and we can do swing. The third one is going to be the rate. So we can just, again, based on the tempo, play different divisions. I'm going to leave it on the default, which is 1/16. Coming up next, it's the gate. And all of this depends on the sound or the instrument that you're using. In this case, it doesn't matter much, but maybe if you're using a synthesizer, the gate, of course, is going to be short, or you can just make it, super wide. I'm going to keep it around there. Now, this is the type or the different modes. And notice that you don't have a lot of different modes, which is fine, but with the other ones that we're going to discuss in a minute, they're super important. You have the up, the most common one, you have the down, you have up and down, then you have up and down too, and then if you keep going, it's going to be the S-plate, which means that it's going to remember the order in which you play the keys. Right, what else? You have the random, and as you could guess, this is just random. Oh, random. And then moving forward, now that one, moving forward, you have the chord, which is going to be whatever it is that you play or press, it's just going to repeat it over and over. In this case, I'm playing a chord, so it's just like repeating the chord. If I keep moving forward, this one is the octave, and I'm going to make it up. If I go here, it's going to repeat whatever is that I'm playing on this octave and one octave higher. This is why it's just, 1. If I go to 2, it's going to be this at 1 octave higher. The next one is going to be 3, and then of course it's going to be 4. I know it's a little bit annoying. Now the encoders that you get right here, all the way from 1 to 6, are just, the most standard controls that you will get or options that you would get on an ARP. The 7 and 8 are really cool. The 7 is the mutate and this one is the rhythm. I'm going to make sure that the rhythm, you have all the squares on. I'm going to show you how this works in a second. First, I'm going to go to the mutate. If I just play a chord, whatever chord, doesn't matter. This is what I'm playing. So the mutate, it will take whatever it is that I'm doing and you basically get a variation. And every time that you play, you release and you play again, you will be getting something different. So yeah. As you go up, of course, in the values, you're going to get a little bit crazier. Cool. So this is what you can do with the mutate. And the other one, it's super interesting. This is called rhythm because it adds a rhythmic variation. And notice that when you move it, you have 8 different squares. And as I keep moving this one, the squares will change. So you start getting different combinations of all the squares. And these are just, the notes. If I go all the way down again, I'm going to play one single key. And you know what? I'm going to change the synthesizer. Maybe I'm going to go to the first one. It's going to be a little bit more annoying, but we can hear what's going on. There we go. Now, if I play it, I can hear all the notes. Now, if I start changing this, all the empty squares are going to be rests. Or, places where you're not going to be playing any note. And you don't have to press one single key. You can press multiple. And this means that, again, you will be getting a rhythmic variation. That's why it's called rhythm. Cool. And you have a lot of different combinations. If you keep scrolling up, you will get a variation or different variations. Now, there's an easier way to do this. I'm going to go all the way down, just all the way down, until you get all the different squares. And again, you have a much easier way to control the rhythm. The rhythm, it's really connected to something called ARP, pattern, and then mode. To enable or to see that pattern mode, you need to go to ARP, press and hold, and this changes. You have all the different pads at the top are just, on, and then you have the function that is red. If I go to this one, which was the rhythm, and I start changing it, notice that the lights will start to turn off and then on. And right here is the representation of what's going on right here on the screen. If I play something, it's going to go like a sequencer. And every time that you don't see a step, of course, it's going to skip it. Now, the cool part about this is that I can, enter or just add the other rests manually. I don't need to use the encoder. I can go right here and say, I want to play all the notes and just skip the last 3. And I'm going to get it. You don't need to scroll just to get what you want. And on top of this, you have a couple of interesting things. I'm going to enable all this. You have the function, every time that you tap it, the screen will say something. And this is going to change colors. So when you go to the orange, I guess it's an orange. Yeah, it's an orange. This one is going to be an accent. If I keep tapping, this one is going to be a yellow and it's going to be a ratchet. If I keep going up, this one is going to be a tie. So essentially, you can add to the sequence a ratchet, an accent, and a tie. Now what the tie is on a sequence pretty much is going to just not trigger the envelope. So this will make this note longer. I could do it right here and notice that this part is just a little bit longer. Now the sequence is going, but again, the camera is just not picking it up. Notice that these ones are red. So these ones are ties. I could go right here, and the next one is going to be the accent. And this depends on your synthesizer. What this one will do is that for this step, it will add a 30% or 30 plus 30 increase in velocity. And again, depends on your synthesizer. You need to set it up, and when it detects this step with more velocity, you will get an accent. And the other one is going to be the ratchet. Right here, when it's going here, you can hear that ratchet. You can use all at the same time. Let's say that on this and this one, I want the ratchet. I'm going to move on to the ties. On this one, I want a tie. And then on this one, I want an accent. And that's that if I keep pressing, I can still see the ratchet, the accent, and the ties. And again, if you play it, you'll hear it. And this is, inside the ARP function. If you think about this, this is more like a sequence type of deal, but you get it on the ARP. And you cannot go to 16 steps or 64 steps because, again, this is not a sequencer. It's just like an extended arpeggiator, right? So as we discussed at the beginning, with the shift right here, hold the shift, we can just select different tracks that we have available on our session. And then, of course, we can go into plugin mode, shift, go into plugin mode, and then all the different encoders can do something about the macros. We can go to mixer. And again, we already talked about this. You can control the level or the panning. If I go to pan with the macros, and then you can control the sense. And then with the transport, the transport controls, you can move around with the 2 and the 3 between the different tracks and, the different clips. And this is what I want to show you right now. I'm going to go to Shift and I'm going to go to DAW. When you go here, you will see something that says sequencer and something that says clips. So you have 2 different modes under the DAW mode. First, I'm going to show you the clips one. Now, when you are in clips mode, make sure that you are on clip mode. You will see that this one is red, and this is the track that we have selected. And notice it's just, again, red. It is because it's armed. If I go to a different track, and you, on the settings or of your DAW, you have, when you select the track, it's going to be armed, enabled. Well, it's the same deal right here. If not, you're going to need to manually do it. Now, on this mode, since we have 2 rows, only 2 rows, the 1 and the 2, we can only use or trigger whatever is that we see on the ring. With the track up and down, you can move the ring and select, just a different part of whatever it is that you're trying to launch or record. Now, when in clips mode, you have secondary functions. And they're not just related to launching clips, they're just, related to DAW type of functions. If I go to function, notice that this one is on. And right here, the function, it says stop. So if you're playing or triggering whatever scene from there with this or track, with this one, you can just trigger the stop of that launch. That's why the mode is stop. If I keep tapping this one, the next mode, it's going to be mute. This track will be muted, right? If I keep tapping away, the next mode is going to be solo, so you can solo that track. If you think about this, these are just track controls more than just launching clips. And if I keep going forward, we are on the clip launch. So everything about the paths, it's about the clip launching. Still, these functions are going to be for the bottom row. The top row will still, launch something and record something. I'm going to get back to the clip launch. And like I said before, there we go, clip launch. If you tap on a track, it's red, it's armed, and you can select the track. On this one, I guess I have some drums. Yeah, I have some drums. And to record something, especially if it's stopped, you just tap it. It will count in if you have it enabled, and it will start recording. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you stop it. Now green means that that clip is playing. If I get out and maybe go to a different track, I guess this one is a bass. Of course, you can record, and when you tap it, it's going to blink and let you in, cue you in, or you can just stop it. And just stop it. Notice that the ones that are playing are green. And if you go to the functions, we can again stop the playback of that one or stop the playback of the other one. I'm going to go back to the clip launch. This one is kind of a purple and this one is pink. Now, if I trigger this one, is the one that we recorded. And if I trigger that one, is the, the drums. This is the clip launch. So if you press it, it will trigger whatever it is that you have on that part. And of course, you can move down and trigger, it will always trigger the first row. In this case, it's just the one that we have on the bass. If I go up, I'm going to trigger whatever we have at the top. Cool. I'm going to take you to the drums that we have right here. When you're playing back, and of course you have that track selected, if you play rec, we can overdub. And this is something, true to Ableton. It's different on different DAWs. So maybe I'm going to get out of rec. Why not? I'm going to add that one. I'm going to enable. And it will just, add it for me. Now, these functions are fine. You don't get a lot more functions when you do clip launching, at least on, this device. For example, I cannot select a track or maybe a clip and delete it from here. I still need to go to the mouse and to the actual DAW and do it from there. And maybe, a couple more functions that maybe Novation can add when we work with clips. But, still, the amount of money that you paid for this and all the functions that you get on this one are just, fantastic. So I cannot really complain. Now, besides the clip mode, you have something called sequencer mode. And we kind of discussed this. You have the clip, which is the 1 of 2. If I tap the DAW again, you get the sequencer mode. And you can just toggle between, both modes. And I have to say again that this depends on the DAW that you're using. This is something that you can do on Ableton. I have no idea if you can do it on other DAWs. I'm going to go to Shift and make sure that I am using a drum rack or drum kit. It's going to be easier. We can still do this with any other tracks. I'm going to show you in a second. So when you are on the sequencer mode, notice that everything is off right here. All the different pads are off. And now what you can do, you can select one of the sounds that you want to record, especially if you are on a drum kit. I'm going to select the kick, and now this works as a sequencer. And I have no clips. As soon as I add one single step, it will create a 1-bar clip for me. I'm going to do so, and as it starts playback. And this is one kick. And now we can just, use it as a sequencer. How great is that? Now, what if I wanted to record maybe the snares? Well, this is the note, or just, the sequence for the kick. I'm gonna go to maybe a snare and just record some snares or claps. This one is the snare. I'm gonna record it. Then we have the hats. Well, just go there and we get it. If you want to go back to the kick and edit the notes, just go back, and right here you can just, remove the notes. Cool. Right, so, and of course you can stop it with the play. Now, one thing that you maybe noticed is that when we create a sequence, when we start a sequence, it's just, one tiny bar. And it's one tiny bar because we have 16 steps. But still, we can navigate different pages and we can extend the length of the sequence. I'm gonna just play it back. And again, we are just on this drum track. And you need to go to the down. When you go to the down, it's gonna say bar 2. And right now it's giving me the 16 steps of the second bar. If I go to snares or whatever, it just doesn't matter. It's just not gonna, let me see. But as soon as I add something to the second bar, it's just gonna, extend the sequence and go through the second bar. Now let me just stop it. What if I want to maybe duplicate whatever is that I had and just, make it 4 bars? You can do so. Still, again, if you go here, you can navigate the different bars by going up or just going down, right? So bar 1, 2, 3, and so on and on and on. All right, so let me go back to 1 bar. So again, like I said before, right here with this one, you can just navigate the different bars of your sequence. Still, what if I want to take this, whatever it is that we have right now on the bar number 1, and just duplicate? The function, you press and hold, it says duplicate, and then press the down arrow, and it will just, duplicate whatever it is that you have. And if you play it back, now we have more. If we do the same, well, it's just gonna duplicate whatever we have, so now it's gonna be 4. And if you want to add more steps, well, you can do so. You just need to go to the right page and just edit the steps. Let's say I want to edit this. I'm gonna be adding, steps all over the place, and we can see it on the screen right now. Cool. Let's go to the number 1, and I'm gonna be adding more. Right. When working on the sequencer view, because that's where we are, right? If we go to Shift, we are on the sequencer. If we press the scene launch, we can select a clip, right? And maybe I want to go to that one. And now it's just created a new clip for me on the number 1, on the first clip. And we can, just go and add something right here. It's going to be something completely different. Again, I'm going to get out and I can just go to the other one and we can see and edit the information. Still, we can stop it and go to DAW, go to clip, and then just trigger manually whatever clip is that you want. Cool. When we are in sequencer mode, maybe working with the drum kit is just easier because we just need to select and add the steps. Maybe with a melodic track, it's just, a little bit different. So I'm gonna go to Shift and I'm gonna go out or just move to the next one, which is gonna be a bass. Or maybe, I'm gonna go to the other one, which is, it's just some nice pianos or just keys. There we go. So, we can do the same with the melodic track. We are on sequencer. If I hold Shift, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna just create a clip. And as you can hear, we are adding steps or just notes to that melodic track. So we can do so. The thing is that we are adding one single note. What if I wanted to maybe add more notes? It's just like working with the user chord. I'm just gonna remove it and I'm gonna just play a chord and just add the note. Notice that we have a chord. Let me just find it. There we go. We can see the chord right now. So what if I want to go here and just do a different chord? There we go. We have a higher chord. I'm I'm gonna go here and just maybe do one F, and we can see all the different chords. Fine. I'm gonna go there and just create a new chord. Made a mistake. Let me go back. There we go. New chord. So this is the way you can add or just, add a chord to the sequence. Now, what if you want to edit? Well, you don't have a visual representation of what you did on each step, but you can go to that step, press and hold, and you do have a visual reference on the screen. And also right here, you have some edits. In my case, this was 1C, so I'm gonna hold it and I can just press the notes that I recorded and it will delete the notes. Or maybe just, press the note that you want to delete and it will delete it, or just add an existing, add it to the existing notes. So cool, this is the way you edit. You go to that step and you just add a note. Another thing that you can do that you can see right there on the screen when you hold a note is going to be the velocity, length, then you have the fine, which is the fine tune, and then you have nudge. And this is just pretty simple. If I press and hold, this one will just change the velocity for all those notes. The next one, it's going to be the length, which is can change the length of those notes. Then we have the fine, which is going to be by tiny little amounts. Still, we are talking about the length. And the next one and last one is going to be the nudge. So you can go and nudge all the different notes. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is the components. When you connect this, and notice that if I go to Shift, all of this is just off because I'm not using Ableton. It's just connected to my computer. And you can go to the custom one, for example, and all the pads will be a minor scale. And this is, I guess, what you get from factory. And the custom 2 is going to be a major scale. And I guess these ones are empty. I do get something because maybe I changed it. But you can go to Novation components. Remember, you can download from your Novation, or you can get a web application. Now, once it shows right here, you just need to manage the LaunchKey MK4. And right here, you have the options of what you can do. You can create a custom mode, upload, or just, get one of the templates that you have right here at the left. I'm gonna create a new custom mode. You can do this, and then it will ask you, okay, so you want to create a custom mode for the pads or the encoders, because you have a custom for the encoders and the pads. I'm gonna go with the pads. Why not? I'm gonna go pads, and then you have a lot of different options of what you can do with the pads. For example, you have some templates for the base station of Novation. You get the Micro Freak. And I guess, you do get a lot more, but, that's not the point. What you can do on this one is that you can select the pad, and right here at the right side, you can just, change what it does. You want it to control a note, you want a program change, control change, whatever it is that you want. And you can, at the bottom, you can even change the color. Let me just use a template. I'm going to use the base station one. I'm going to go there, and once you select one, you just need to send it to your launch key. And it will ask you, where do you want to put it? I'm going to select it, and it says select custom mode. And then again, you have 4 for each. So you need to select the mode or where you want to allocate it. I'm going to put it on the number 4. If you had something from before, of course, it will overwrite this. So overwrite, it's just going to take a second. And if I go to Shift and then go to the number 4, notice it says base station. So all the encoders will modify something or some property about the base station. And right here, I cannot do much for you. You just need to go select one of the existing custom modes, or just, create a new one. Maybe for the encoders or the pads. It's completely, this completely depends on your needs. Okay, so we are done. And I'm going to give you just my opinion. I don't have to, because this is a deep dive. So, I don't really have to give you my opinion. But since no one is paying me, and Novation is not paying me to do this, and no one paid me to do a different review, I can just freely provide my opinion with no strings attached. This is the best, at least of the mini ones. This one is the best. You have the the Akai one, which is not that bad, but didn't really like it. The pads are just maybe not that good, and sometimes setting the velocity of the keys is just a mess. You don't have the useful screen, and you lack a lot of features. And I think there's an update coming with the Akai one. Now, on second place is the Arturia. You can do a lot of things, and it's pretty complete. And I think that the keys are much better on the Arturia ones. So if you really want the the keys feel, I think the Arturia are just a little bit better. And also the build of the chassis and everything else is just a little bit better. But if you're using the Ableton or using any of the DAWs that Novation recommends, this is the best option. Why? Because you have a lot of functions. Notice all the things that you can do on Ableton. And the pads are just, the best pads. I know they are small, they're not big. If you want big pads, maybe the Akai one is the best option. But again, the sequencer, the ARP, the scales, all the different functions that you get make this a very good purchase. Especially if you're using Ableton. If you're using Ableton, there's, you don't even need to think about this. This is the best option by far. But again, this is just my honest opinion. It's just an opinion. If you like what I do and you liked all of this, please like the video. This channel is supported by viewers only. And if you want to buy me a coffee to say thanks and help the channel keep going on, you can. You have links at the description for PayPal, YouTube Thanks, and Patreon.